Week 2, Oracy and Language Acquisition discussion post. Language acquisition. What do you remember about your own language acquisition in L1 or L2? I remember when I was going into pre-kinder, no one in my family, including myself, spoke English. I was the first in my family to learn. I remember going to family parties, and my aunts and uncles and cousins would always ask me how certain words were said in English. I remember going to my first day in pre-kinder, and everybody was singing the alphabet songs, counting in English, and I was like, okay, what's going on? So as a little kid, I was thrown into an all English. I have no idea why, knowing that my mom and my dad both spoke only Spanish. But I was thrown in there, and I was really lost and scared, and I remember thinking okay, everybody's saying the same thing, so let me just start repeating. So I just started repeating everything they do, and that's how the rest of my year went pretty much. And for with homework and stuff like that, my mom and my dad would try to help me with the alphabet, but we'd review it in Spanish with them, and then at school I do it in English, so I was always behind. I was never at grade level, however they would grade back then, because at home I was practicing the alphabet in Spanish, and at school it was in English. So when my parents would tell me why aren't you doing it, I'd be it's because you guys say it different. And pues they didn't know, because my parents, they really never, not that they didn't care, they really just didn't understand back then, or I don't know. But I think that's what I remember about my L2 learning English. So that's a little story about me. And for the second part of this question is, if you have children, what were some milestones or funny stories about their language acquisition? I have a 3-year-old son, and I find it funny that I speak to him Spanish and English all the time. But when he talks to my mom, he always speaks both también. And he tries to ask her for stuff, and he's like, Grandma, quiero food. He says, he wants food, but he uses Spanish and English. And I think that's very funny that he does that. Hopefully one day he's able to have a full-on Spanish conversation with my mom instead of mixing in with English. Because my mom still doesn't really speak English. She understands it, but she won't speak it. Which I find really really, Mom. But to each their own. And for Oracy, I chose question number 3. Why is Oracy important for all students, but especially for emergent bilingual students? Okay, Oracy is the ability to communicate effectively through spoken language. Okay, so it is important for all students, especially for emergent bilingual students, because it can help them to close the achievement gaps. When these students have opportunities to practice speaking and listening in English, they can develop their language skills and improve their understanding of the content being taught. Okay, so Oracy will also help students develop the vocabulary and grammar. It helps them develop their thinking skills. When students talk about what they are learning, they have to think about it more deeply, which means this will help them to develop their critical thinking skills and make better connections between their prior knowledge and the new information. Oracy helps them build relationships with their peers and teachers. When students talk to each other and their teachers, they are building relationships and learning how to collaborate and communicate effectively. Oracy will also help them prepare for academic success. Oracy is a key skill for success in school, as it is essential for participating in class discussions, giving presentations, and taking tests. Oracy helps them feel confident and empowered. When students feel comfortable speaking up and sharing their ideas, they feel more confident and empowered. This can lead to improved academic achievement and overall well-being. Those are the reasons why Oracy is important, especially for the emerging bilingual students. And that's all. Those are my questions for week 2, Oracy and language acquisition.